I think most of us struggle in some ways of trying to figure out how to read the Bible in a way that makes sense. And I think in addition to reading the Bible, one of the areas that we struggle in is maybe prayer and how to understand how prayer applies to our lives. When we think about God, we think about, well, He knows everything, why should I have to tell Him? But again, I think part of the reason why we struggle with that is we fail to make the connection that it isn't that God doesn't know those things. It's that in many ways, our hearts, as the great Augustine would say, our hearts are restless until we learn to rest in God. Like until we can find our place in God, we're a restless people. And so my prayer is that over the next few days, you'll be able to maybe engage prayer through a reading of the scriptures that'll help us better understand the character of God and necessarily how that character applies to us and how we are recipients of God's great character and His great love for us. And so this first week, we're going to read through Psalm 139, and we're going to go through varying passages each day, and I'm going to have a few questions for you to follow along. So this morning, it is Psalm 139, beginning at verse 1. It says, "You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. You perceive my thoughts from afar. You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and you lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain." You know, when we think about the character of God, one of the things we have to consider, and even the psalmist paints this for us, is that God really does know everything. There is not one thing known to man or unknown to man that God is not fully aware of. There's nothing within our solar system, there's nothing within other solar systems that God does not have an awareness of, an understanding of, a complete knowledge of. And what the psalmist does is he reminds himself as he celebrates God that God knows all of these things. He talks about God searching the depths of who He is. He talks about the idea that when I sit and when I rise, you know my thoughts from far away. You know what's going on in my life. I love this. He says, "You discern my going out and my lying down. You are familiar with all my ways. Before a word is on my tongue, you, Lord, know it completely." One of the things that I'd love for you to do today is to think about this whole idea of how God holds us in His grip with an awareness of everything that's going on in our lives. When we think about God, sometimes we give credit to the idea that God does in fact know everything, but then we don't necessarily treat our relationship with Him in that way. And so today I want to challenge you as you read this passage, Psalm 139, 1 through 6, I want you to think about the incredible depth of knowledge and insight God has. I want you to recognize in your own prayer time how it is that God knows your thoughts and draws you toward Him so that He can bring those thoughts out. Because one of the most important things that we can do with our thoughts is to put them out there that God might discern them for us, that He might filter them. We have the Holy Spirit who acts as our filter in life. And when we put those things out there, Corinthians tells us that the Holy Spirit searches the depths of God. And by searching the depths of God, He can weigh those things out. And if we're open, then God will share with us what He is finding, or more specifically, what He has found and what we need to be attentive to. And so today I want to challenge you, just as you consider this idea of learning to pray, to think the thoughts of God and then speak them. Think of His omniscient nature, this word the theologians use to describe His ability to know everything. And as you think about that, the last thing I want you to consider doing is praising God in your prayer time for the knowledge that He has, that if He even opened a portion of it to you, that as He says in verse 6, such knowledge is too wonderful for me, too lofty for me to attain. God bless you. Go in peace.